This is the first lesson for single view drawings using AutoCAD 2019. To begin, you can select the AutoCAD 2019 icon on your desktop. And this will load up the software. I'm just going to maximize this. So taking a look at the interface for the first time, this is your main toolbar ribbon here at the top. These are your drawing tools. Now generally they only have the ones that you typically use out in the open. These are modify tools here, which we'll learn their importance as well. And these are your annotation tools, as in dimensioning. And then here we have what's called our layers. We also typically use some functions under utilities as well. To get started with downloading our template, we can go to Google Chrome here. I already have the school board's website loaded up. And I'm going to hit staff. In your case, you would hit student. And find the hub. And log in. Now mine already remembers my credentials. So I'm going to hit the waffle. And select our course from the list. TDJ2O1-11 school year 2021. Click this open and click into content. Now this here under the AutoCAD module, we have this drawing here, Eye of the Eagle. Now this is a DWG file. This means this is an AutoCAD file that I've uploaded up to the hub. So I want you to begin by downloading this to your computer after you have AutoCAD open. So you can click this. Actually, you can just click on it, hit the download button, and it will download here. Hit open, and we can just hit open again. Okay, so what this does is it loads up the drawing border for our first drawing in model space. So this black background here is where we do all of our drawing. So everything will occur in what's called model space. Now model space is infinite and it goes on forever and ever. It's like the universe, right? We have plenty of room to make plenty of drawings any size we want. Now, to get started with what we're going to actually draw, I'm going to go back to Google Chrome. I'm going to go back here one step, and I'm going to go down further to where it says use your iPad to access the following images of drawings and redraw on AutoCAD. So this is, again, the Eye of the Eagle. Now these have an extension of an image. So this is just for copying purpose. Right? Whatever you see as DWG file is always downloaded to your computer. This can be opened up on your iPad, and you can use your iPad as a reference while you're working on your computer. So to click this open, this is what you should open up on your iPad. Now this shows the border here that we've opened in AutoCAD already with our drawing title, who drew it, the date of the drawing, the scale of the drawing, and the drawing number. So I'm not going to be referring back to this I'm not going to be clicking between two screens as I do the lesson. I have this open on my iPad, so I'm going to be referencing that as I go to kind of speed things up. So I'm going to model the behavior that I want you to model as a student when you're completing these drawings. So this is the last time I'm going to show this to you on my lesson that I'm creating right now, and then I'm going to switch and just begin to show you how to draw this on AutoCAD. So we're going to click back into AutoCAD. Before I get started, I want to make sure I save this. So this is a problem that students have. They complete a drawing and they say, oh, my work is gone. I've lost my work. So whenever you open up a file like this, after you download it, you need to go up to the big A, go to Save As, and this is in my Downloads folder right now. So I don't like to leave everything in Downloads, so I'm going to move it to a different location. I'm going to put it on my desktop, and I'm just going to save it there. And then it shows up here in my navigation bar. That's where it is on my desktop. So now I know where it is. There's no guesswork later as to where the file goes. It has to be saved after opening. So always make sure you do that after you open up one of these new files. So taking a look at how to get started with AutoCAD, if I'm using my mouse, and if I use the wheel on my mouse, I can zoom in and out as I please through model space. So this is just by using the wheel on the mouse. If I was to hold the middle wheel, I can pan around the drawing, right? So holding it will pan it, wheeling it up and down will zoom in and out. There's no scroll bars here to use. So everything is done with the mouse. To get started with drawing a line, now we need to pay attention to this status bar right here. This little icon here that looks like the symbol for a right triangle, this is called ortho mode. Now when you download this file, this is already switched on in this case. So if I was to start with a line, which is a drawing tool, I can go up to line and I can left click it, and then AutoCAD will say specify first point. And that's fine. So I'm going to zoom in to this symbol right here. Now this is something I've put on here. This is an origin. So I'm going to start at the origin. If I start and end my drawing at the origin, I know it's going to be perfectly centered automatically within the confines of the drawing's border or title block. So if I flash my cursor around, I'm not clicking anything, I'm just moving it around, I get these little symbols that pop up, and this is called endpoint. So this is an object snap. Object snaps are extremely important to us when using AutoCAD. Without, can't connect line geometry together for accuracy. So when I start at the origin, I always want to start where the two lines connect to one another, right in the bottom left corner at this endpoint. All of these are endpoints, but this is the one that I always want to use. So you'll always start at that particular endpoint at the origin. So if I left click, I'm attaching a line to that origin. Now notice that when I move my mouse, I can only toggle the line perfectly vertically or perfectly horizontally. That is because ortho is switched on here. If I was to just click this off with the left click of my mouse, ortho becomes off as it shows in this command line, which we'll get to know in a little while. And now I can swing this line any angle I want, which is generally not good. Usually if you're drawing lines, if you want to draw perfectly straight lines, you always want to make sure that ortho is turned on. So about 95% of the time when you draw, you're going to make sure the ortho mode is switched on. So I'm going to turn it back on. I'm going to left click. It says ortho on. The command line here is like a history of everything that you do in your drawing. It records everything that you're doing, every function you're turning on and off as well. And it also prompts you to complete 2 or 3 stage commands. So ortho is on. I've already snapped my line to the start of the origin, but I will cancel this and do that again. So I can hit the right click, left click, enter, and that will escape me from the line command. So to start again, I'm going to pick line, ortho is on, zoom in, start at this endpoint, and I'm going to begin to draw this line horizontally. Now, these numbers that you see getting larger as I drag my mouse, don't try to line those numbers up with the distance you want the line to be. You want to actually key in the length. So I just basically ignore those numbers, and I'm just going to type 170 because that's the length of the line on the iPad screen, and I'm going to hit enter. And that line has been drawn 170 millimeters long. I can continue up vertically now, and this length is 69. Continuing on horizontally, this line is 94. Now, to continue on, this next line comes on an angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to that in a second. So I'm just going to right click my mouse and then left click enter, and that will escape me from the line command. So when I'm not currently in a command, the command line would read type a command, and my crosshairs, which is basically my cursor, which is like a target, it basically has a little white square in the middle. You'll notice that when I have a command active, that little white square won't be there. It'll be a perfect plus target that I'm working with. So I'm going to start by finishing the drawing by coming back to the origin. So I'm going to pick the line command again, specify first point, find the end point, pull my cursor up, and key in 12. And then continue to the right. This line is 109 millimeters. Hit enter. Come up vertically 12 millimeters. And I actually don't know how long this line is. Now, if you pay attention to your screen with your iPad that you're referencing, it actually doesn't give a distance for this line at all. So some people want to make it 109, but you'll notice that this tip here sticks out just a little bit longer. So I don't know how long to make it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make it longer than I need. I'm not actually even going to key in a distance. I'm just going to click somewhere here. It doesn't really matter where. I'm just going to left click, and I'm going to want to escape the command at this point. So I'm going to right click, left click, enter to escape. Okay, that's longer than I need it to be, but I'm going to fix that later. So next, I'm going to snap a line to this endpoint and come down on an angle. Now, so line command, snap to endpoint. Of course, ortho is on, so I can only draw perfectly vertical and horizontal lines. So I got to turn the polar on. So this polar mode is right next to ortho mode. Polar mode is for drawing precise angles. So if I push polar mode on, it automatically turns the ortho mode off. Automatically. Now, that makes sense, because if ortho mode is only for drawing vertical and horizontal lines, and polar is only for drawing lines on angles, obviously these two commands can't be on at the same time. One of them will have to cancel the other one out. So perfect. So polar is on, and I'm going to want to set the angle. Now the angle is 30 degrees. So I'm going to right click the polar mode, not left click it. If I left click it, I'll turn it off. And I want to make sure that I have 30 degrees selected. As I can see, I'm good. Do this again. Snap to endpoint. 30. Okay. So this is going to want to lock the line at increments of 30 degrees. So this is 0, 30, 60, 90 degrees, 150, 180, 210. Now, the reason for this is AutoCAD does everything in a counterclockwise direction. So, saying that this is 210 degrees is basically the same thing as 30 degrees. As long as you're working in increments of 30, everything will be fine. So, I'm going to continue on, and I'm going to, I don't know how long this line is, but I know it has to intersect with this line. So as long as I see that beam, that little green beam that you see come up, whenever that beam appears, it means I perfectly have an increment of 30 degrees. So that's 180 degrees. That's like half a circle. That's a semicircle. Coming down another 30 brings me to 210. So I'm going to come down. I see the green beam. I'm going to come right to this snap. Now this is another object snap. It's an X. It means intersection. So that is where I want to left click. And there I have it. So I'm going to right click and left click enter to escape. And I have it drawn perfectly. So this is supposed to just sit beyond where this vertical line is, this little tip of the eagle here. Now this line should not be here. So I'm going to have to get rid of that as well. I'll come back to that in a little bit. The next thing I want to do is create the eye in the eagle. So we're going to, instead of drawing the eye, we're going to use a modify tool to help us. So we've learned how to use line. Now we're going to learn how to use a command called offset. So offset creates concentric circles, parallel lines, and parallel curves. Well, in our case, we want to make parallel lines. So I'm going to select offset, and before I do anything, AutoCAD asks a question. This is a two-stage command. So it says specify offset distance. So I have to tell it how much before I click anything. So I'm going to begin by picking this vertical line and offsetting it to the left. So but first I have to tell it how much. So the distance between this vertical line and the one that's going to be put here is 25. So I'm going to type in 25 and hit enter. Now after that, my cursor becomes a little square, a little white square. That means I'm ready to actually perform the offset. So I'm going to click this vertical line and click to the left. I could click to the right, but I want to go to the left because I want this to be inside the eagle. So once I left click, I have the line essentially offset or copied exactly 25 millimeters. So to escape, right click, left click, enter. Moving on, the bottom of the eye is 33 millimeters from this bottom horizontal line. So let's do that again. Pick offset. This time type 33 and hit enter. And then pick this bottom horizontal line, and I'm going to want to click up like that. Right click, left click, enter to escape the command. We have another one to do. The height of the eye is 24 millimeters from this horizontal line. So we'll do another offset. Select, this time type 24, enter. pick this line and click above. Right click, left click, enter to escape. And then lastly, this line, this line on 30 degrees will be offset inward a value of 12. So offset 12, click this line and click on the interior side of the eagle. Right click, left click, enter to escape. Okay. So I have it there. I have the eye inside the eagle. Now I have quite a bit of extra line geometry that I don't need, that I need to clean up. So I need to do what's called a trim. And a trim is also in modify. So that is this command here. Trims objects to meet the edges of other objects. So if I can select trim, which looks like scissors, this is how this works. So when you begin with a trim process, you're actually selecting boundaries first. So you're actually selecting what you want to keep at the beginning. So I want to keep the eye. So I'm going to select all of the geometry that represents the eye in the eagle. So that is everything. So once I've selected those lines and they've turned a little bit blue, I can hit the enter key and I can go around and now trim all of the lines that I don't need. I just go around and select them. And then right click, left click, enter to escape. And then, so in this case, to clean up this line, I'm going to select trim again. I'm going to select the boundary. This line represents the boundary. And I can hit enter, or I could right click my mouse. Either method is good. So I'll right click my mouse. That activates the trim, and then I'll left click the line that I want to trim. It will trim it to the boundary. And then I can right click, left click, enter, and I have the eye drawn. So it's just as simple as that. Now, one last thing before you try this. Down here in the title block, I want you to edit the title block information. So what you're going to do is double click the X on title and then just backspace the X and make sure your caps lock is on, and then type the title of the drawing, which is Eye of the Eagle. Switch over to Drawn By. This is where you'll put your name. I drew this one, so my first initial is K, period, space, Lemieux. You'll put your name here, your first initial, period, space, and your last name. This is for professionalism in a drawing. We never type our full first name. We always put this is how it's always shown. First initial, period, space, and last name. Now I'm checking this drawing for you. So again, I'm going to type my name again, and then you'll type my name under checked. And for date, today's date is September 9th. So we're going month, day, year. So this is the 9th month, backslash, this is the 13th day, and the 20th year. So make sure you put the date in on the day that you actually make the drawing. Scale. The scale for the drawing is 1:1, a ratio of 1:1. What does that mean? That means that if I was to print this drawing out on a printer, this fits on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So that means that if I actually was to print this off and measure this with a ruler, the measurements I would see on the ruler would be the exact measurements that I made the drawing in AutoCAD. So that means that if I put a ruler on this line, this would actually measure to 170 millimeters. So another example is if I had made the scale 1 to 2, the drawing would print out half the scale that I had drawn it, or if the scale was inserted as 2 to 1, it would be printed off twice as large physically as drawn in the units on AutoCAD. So I'm sure you're all familiar with scale, but scale is something we always have to include on any drawing in our title block information. And then lastly, we have drawing number. So this is 201. Now this is the last 3 digits of our course code. Our course code is TDJ2O1. Now the 2 means grade 10, the O means open, so it's not a 0. The 1 means single credit, and then we put a dash and we'll go 01 because this is our first drawing. And I'll just left click out of there, and the title block is finished. Now we're not completely done with this drawing yet, but we're almost done with it. But I'm going to end the lesson here, and I'm going to ask that you complete this now in the lab or on your own computer. And make sure to seek me out if you have any questions, and I will get back to you as soon as I can.